really, quite honestly, how serious are you about being a baseball player?
Hello and welcome. We will discuss high school athletics and the importance of high school athletics, not only on the field of play, in the classroom, and in the community in general. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, born and raised, but I spent a period of time in my life in the greater New Orleans area, in Metairie and Jefferson Parish, for about 7 years, from 2010, 2011, all the way up to 2016 and 17. And I got to meet a lot of great folks. And I can think of no better first guest than Jeffrey Curtis. He is the head baseball coach at John Curtis High School in River Ridge, Louisiana. I want to preface this by saying, yes, I am partial to John Curtis. I've met a lot of families and boys from all different high schools in New Orleans, but the Curtis Cabrera family for me is family. And so I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to learn about the high school experience overall, both on the baseball diamond as well as in the classroom. Jeff, I want to say thank you for being our first guest, and I'm really excited and looking forward to our discussion here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. It's just something that I think people need to hear. Parents, coaches, family members. I'm really excited about it. I enjoy listening to your other podcasts and what you're doing for these young men, giving them opportunities. So, I appreciate you having me on. I consider you a friend, but more importantly, I consider you a person that is for others, which is kind of what we're about. Family, you mentioned it, and that's who and what we're about.
And that really is the essence of what I am trying to accomplish with this segment. I think it's time to push high school athletics back to the forefront where it's always been, and somehow it got lost over these last 10 or 15 years. And so I want to talk to you a little bit, kind of twofold here, Coach. The first, as a head coach, not only you're a head coach at the baseball program, but you're also an assistant coach of a perennial national powerhouse football team. So you're dealing with multi-sport athletes, and you're also a dad that coaches your sons with regard to their youth sports, as now Jeffrey being in the high school. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on the high school student athlete experience from a multi-sport kind of context. I know you encourage it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that with regard to not only your sons, but the student athletes that you coach.
Yeah, multi-sport athletes, we value tremendously. We understand that at some point, the sport is going to end for some kids, right? Be it maybe in high school, maybe they decide in high school they have some ability in one particular sport, and they want to focus on that sport because they have a goal that they're trying to reach, or obviously at the collegiate level. Being a multi-sport athlete at the collegiate level is tremendously difficult to do, obviously. So if you're a multi-sport athlete and you've had success maybe in two or three sports in high school, then you go to college, then you're going to focus primarily on one sport, right? So it's going to end, or even professionally. I mean, obviously there's been a handful of people that's been able to be multi-sport athletes at the professional level. But obviously that percentage is microscopically small. But we all know that multi-sports are going to end at some point. What we would like to see is those student athletes in high school doing as much as they can with the limited time that they have to do it in. You can never get your high school experience back no matter what. And when we have a kid that's on the fence, and my dad, JT Curtis, who is our head football coach, and his accolades speak for themselves. He's been doing it for 54 years. But when we have a kid that's on the fence, coach, I'm not sure I want to play football. I'm not sure I want to play baseball. I'm not sure I want to play basketball this year. One of the things that he asks them or tells them is that I want you to understand something, son, that when your time is finished in high school and you're moving on, hopefully you've met your goal and you're going to play collegiately. But when you graduate from high school, if you come up with $1 billion idea or you get signed $1 billion contract, and if you come back and say, Coach, man, I made a mistake. I would sure like to play football again. I gave it up to focus on baseball, but I sure would like to play again. Here's 50% of the $1 billion that I just. Here's $500 million. I'm putting it in cash on your desk. I want to play one more season and then I'm good. I got to look at you, son, and say no, I can't. And then the next question is do you know why? And the kid would say, well, because it's illegal. He says, well, yeah, it's illegal, but nobody would play me. We can't have a season. They wouldn't play somebody that they know is playing with an ineligible player, an illegal player. Nobody would play me. So it's. But what I want you to understand is, son, is once this is over, it's literally priceless. You can't put a value on the high school experience because once it's gone, it's gone. It's over. You get to college and you can transfer up, you can transfer down, you can come home for a year, you can take a year off, you can go back. There's a window of time that you can have, and you can go and do something professional. You can go be an auto mechanic for a few years. You can go be a plumber. You can go do whatever you want, and then decide, you know what, I think I want to give college a try, and you can do that. Obviously, professionally or semi pro, you can. And there's over 40 leagues all over the country, over 30 leagues all over the country. So you can do all, but you can't get your high school experience back. So we really encourage multi-sport athletes from that aspect because number one, you can't get it back. Number two, we think it's extremely beneficial because quite honestly, it's cross-training. You're training different muscles. You're training the mind differently. You're developing a lot of time management skills that you don't even realize. If you're a serious baseball player, football helps you out tremendously because if you want to be a serious baseball player, you're going to make time for baseball. You're going to make time to get in the cage. You're going to make time to work the muscles out in your arm or in your back or in your shoulder or in your lower body. That's going to make you a better baseball player during football season. So it's the cross-training aspect, but it also is significant of importance because of the time management skills. And really, quite honestly, how serious are you about being a baseball player? One of the things we get a lot of times from kids is, Coach, I'm going to quit to focus on. And you can kind of feel the, whether it's another sport. Sometimes we get it. My grades aren't doing well, so I'm gonna quit this sport to focus on my grade. You're not going home at 3:00 after school and studying from 3:00 till 8:00. Give me a break. It's an excuse to get out of the hard, right? I'm going to quit to focus on. It's really an excuse to get out of the hard. And life is about hard. And so we're going to do everything we can to encourage those kids to fight through that hard. And being a multi-sport athlete is hard.
It certainly is not easy. And I want to make sure I keep folks from all over the country to understand Mr. JT Curtis. They've won 28 state championships in football. I know you won 9 state championships in baseball. So we're talking about a very high level 5A within the state of Louisiana, which is in an uber competitive athletic across the board. Girls basketball, track and field. Curtis High School has won state titles in all of these sports, mainly because of the disciplines and the attention to overcoming obstacles and hurdles. And I want to get into that a little bit. In the world of high school sports, you're talking about learning so much more than just simply athletics in a competitive environment, such as football or baseball track and field. It's a mental toughness. It's a mental discipline. Can you kind of talk about that? Because it's all year round. Travel sports are for a certain period of time, but high school sports are all year round, especially at Curtis. I know your football program is working all year round. So can you explain that dynamic as a high school coach, how you're working with life skills, with regard to athletics?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, I have 5 kids. I'm a father, right? That doesn't stop. I mean, that's a full-time job in and of itself. Thank God I was able to marry someone who does a tremendous amount for our family that allows me to do what I love to do, right? But life doesn't stop,
Right.
it keeps going. So we're trying to provide these young men and women with these life skills that is going to help them. And I just talked about it, overcome the hard, because life's hard. You're going to deal with job issues. You're going to deal with employee issues. You're going to deal with boss issues. You're going to deal with death in life. You're going to deal with setbacks. You're going to deal with all these things in life. And these years of high school, we hope, provides an avenue for them to learn that mental toughness, as you said, to be able to get through those difficult times in life, to be able to get up off the ground on the football field when somebody knocks you down, to be able to get back on the court when you took a hard charge and you're not feeling very good, to be able to get back out there and hustle on the field after you just struck out with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 6th inning, and you take your gloves off, you set your bat down, you grab your mitt, and you head out to the field as quickly as you can. All those things are little bits and pieces of information that's going to provide the mental toughness for those difficult times in life. And our motto at school is building champions for life. Certainly, we want to win state championships. That's our goal of what we do. But that's just a byproduct of the champions that we're trying to develop in the life skills or for life. Wins, and Dad says this all the time. If it's just about the scoreboard, if it's just about the wins, if it's just about the records of the championships, it's not worth it. What's worth it to us, and this is what I tell our guys all the time, what's worth it to us is getting that invitation that comes in the mail that says, Coach, I'm getting married. I'd like you there. Coach, I just had my first baby boy. I'm coming back to visit you at practice. Those are the relationships, and those are the things that is fulfilling to us as coaches, because as the Bible says, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's what we're trying to get done.
Well, I think what's really unique that you're experiencing, and I talk about two things as the foundation of youth sports. The first one being Little League, and the second being high school. And I use those terms more with regard to periods of time in a child's life, meaning Little League, okay, it's an organization, it's a corporate entity, but as a whole, it's a period of time. In my neck of the woods, Little League starts at 7 or 8 and then goes through 12 years of age. And then high school, kind of in that 13, 14-year-old all the way up to 18. You have a unique perspective of both because, one, you're a high school head baseball coach, but two, Little League in New Orleans, as we just witnessed a few years ago, won a Little League national world title, World Series. And your son was a part of that, and you got to live that experience and watch Jeffrey, your oldest son, kind of go through that Little League years and then culminate, obviously, in Williamsport. Can you talk about that development from an athletic perspective of those years, say 10 through 12, that lead a child into the high school experience?
Yeah, and I know that you feel the same way about this, Walter, and I want to make sure that whoever's listening to this understands this. I am not anti-travel ball.
Right, neither am I.
Not at
right.
all. I mean, I think that it has a place. I think it has a purpose. I think it's good when done correctly. I think it has a lot of benefits. So when I talk about this, I want everybody to understand that it's not about being anti-travel ball. But when we had children, my wife and I, we talked about how we were going to raise our kids. And we both grew up as you grew up, as a lot of people that are probably listening to this grew up. When it was football season, you played football. When it was basketball season, you played basketball. When it was soccer season, you played soccer. When it was baseball season, you played baseball. And we were what you consider seasonal athletes. That's how we grew up. And we decided as a young married couple, when we were having children, that was the avenue that we would like to pursue. And it's hard. It's hard to make that decision because so many people out there are saying he's missing out. She's missing out. She's not getting enough. We're going to do this. We're seeing that. We're going to this showcase. He's been invited to that tournament. He's been asked to play on this elite team, etc. So it's hard because you don't want to do anything that's going to hold your son or your daughter back.
Right.
So those decisions are difficult, but we kind of stuck to our guns. I have a daughter that's a freshman in college at UL who's on the who dances collegiately for the Raging Jazz. I have a senior daughter who's on the dance team, the cheer team. She played on the volleyball team. She plays on the softball team. And then Jeffrey, my son, who's a freshman. He's played football, basketball, and baseball all the way up until this year. He came to us and said, Dad, I don't think I'm going to play basketball this year. I think it's just going to be too hard between the balance of hopefully making it to the state championship in football, which is the second week in December, and then turn around and start in baseball in January when we return back from school. Yeah, okay, son, you're saying all the right things and you're doing it for the right reasons. And I understand that and I respect that. So he's kind of a football, baseball guy. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So Jeffrey comes to me, he's 12, and it's about this time, maybe a week earlier, but it's about this time of the year. And the deadline or the opening registration for Little League for the 12-year-olds is coming up. So I go to him, I said, Jeffrey, Little League registration's coming up. We're going to go ahead and sign you up, blah, blah, blah. And he says, Dad, I don't think I want to play Little League this year. I think I just want to play school ball. We're fortunate enough that we're at a school where we can provide school baseball at our school. We're a pre-K through 12 school. So we have at that time, I guess he was in the 6th grade. We have a 6th grade baseball team. So I said, well, son, why don't you want to play Little League this year? You've played since you were 8, and this is the last year that you can play, why not? And he's a smart kid, right? So he tells me, he says, well, two things. He goes, I'm going to be playing at school. So I want to play with the kids that I'm going to play with as we get older, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 12th. I want to play with that group and I want to focus on that group. He said, and you don't let me play Little League football. So I don't understand why I can't play Little League football since I'm playing football at school, and why I have to play Little League baseball, because you said that Little League football and school football was too much. So why is it? So I said, you kind of got me, but here's why. Here's why. And I went on to explain the differences between football and baseball from a physical standpoint. And I would never do anything in baseball that's going to be too much stress on your arm or anything like that. So we talked through that. And I said, now I understand you wanting to play with your school ball friends, but it's important to branch out and play with other kids too. Sometimes you have to start learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and certainly
Amen.
Seeing new faces and new friends and kids that might be a little bit better than you, somebody you might not have ever known, or somebody who might not be as good as you, and learning how to mix and match with those different personalities. So we had a good discussion. So we settled on playing the league, but not focusing on the All-Stars. And quite honestly, what I think the conversation was really about was he knew that the league was going to be really good. He knew it was going to be really good. He had made the All-Star team as an 11. They had a separate 11-year-old team from the 12-year-old team. And they had added a couple of pieces that he knew was, and I think deep down inside, he wasn't really sure that he could compete at that level. And I think he was a little bit scared or afraid that he might not make the All-Star team. And what is that going to do for me? So we settled on, hey, let's play the league. Let's not worry about All-Stars. That's not even on the radar. want you to go out. I want you to have fun, because ultimately this is about being an enjoyable experience for you. It's not about dad. It's not about mom. It's not about Uncle Johnny or Jay or anybody. This is about your experience. So he plays the league. He has a really good year. The league is what he thought was really, really good. There was probably 20 players in the league that could make the team. I mean, you could pretty much see it. And obviously they had to make a decision that, somewhere between 12 and 14 players are going to make the team. So that was going to mean there was going to be some guys that had some hurt feelings. So it came down to time to saying, okay, I want to put my name into possibly making the All-Star team. So I go to him, I say, son, I said, I know we said we wouldn't talk about this. You've had a really good year. You know what the competition is like. Do you want to try to submit for the All-Star team? He said, Dad, I think I do. I said, all right. I said, but what I want you to understand is that you might not make this team. And that's okay. I have no problem with that. As your dad, as the head baseball coach at John Curtis, I don't care. I'm proud of what you did. I'm proud of how you got there. I'm proud of how you handled this. And I'm glad that you feel good enough about yourself that you want to try to make the team. So he submits his name, and ultimately he makes the team. And his journey was super successful, obviously, with going all the way to Williamsport and winning the World Series title and having an opportunity to be a part of that. But from the Little League perspective, what I really enjoy about it, outside of that little story, is that, number one, you have to join an organization with people that you might know and you might not know. Number two, you're going to play in a league that is going to be a developmental league, because ultimately they're trying to develop players that's going to give them the best chance to win at an all-star level, right?
Right.
So the development is key. Winning the game, not so important. But putting Jeffrey Curtis in a situation that might be uncomfortable for him to see if he can maybe help us at the all-star level is kind of the goal, if you will, right? So he's put in different situations. Then I'm either going to make the all-star team or I'm not. And as a parent, I was prepared to have the conversation that if he didn't make it, about all the reasons why I was still proud of him, right? So you have to make then once you make the all-star team, then it goes into a little bit more developmental process as far as practices go, getting really down into some really good practice sessions. I was fortunate enough where Scott Frazier, who was the head coach of the team, came to me and said, Jeff, would you and your staff like to come run one of your high school practices for us? And we did. We came in and I ran those 13 kids through a high school practice, which was really, really good. He kind of took some bits and pieces of that and implemented it in their practice, right? Then you get into your district tournament. Hey guys, look, I know we have a lot of ability. I know this team has a chance to go deep, but if we don't play well in our district tournament, this season is over.
Right.
So you got to win your district tournament. Then you go to state and you got to win that. And if you don't win that, your season's over. Once you win that, then we're going to the regionals. And then if you don't win that, your season's over. And if you win that, then you get to go to Williamsport and kind of get at the mecca of youth baseball, if you will. And so that's one of the reasons, another one of the reasons why I really like the Little League is for all of those reasons. What I don't want my son or daughter to do is lose a game and say, I got a tournament next weekend I can go play in.
Right.
When they lose, I want it to hurt a little bit. I want them to care about it where it hurts a little bit, because I feel like that's going to develop that drive. And when they get in the car and they're upset, and what are you upset about? Well, so-and-so didn't. No. I don't want to hear about so-and-so. I'm proud of the way that you played, but let's not talk about so-and-so. Why are you upset? Well, we lost. Well, why do you think it? And so then you can get into those conversations, right? But I want that to hurt a little bit, because that's going to develop that sense of care and that sense of toughness. And what can I do to be a better player to help my team?
You just literally encapsulated every fiber of what for me the whole time period of Little League means.
Yeah.
And again, reiterating, there is no doubt that travel baseball has a place, a permanent place within youth sports. But one of the things that you just alluded to, oh, I don't care, we lost this weekend. Next weekend is a big tournament. It's, this event, it's that World Series, it's this championship. And so we lose that competitive fire. And, I used to be called a poor sport. I was never a poor sport. I just didn't like losing.
Right.
And so that would drive me to be a better teammate, to get my teammates to be more engaged and practice harder. I think there's a little bit of that missing. And I think you just kind of gave us a really good example of why that matters. And I find that to be a much needed message that needs to be sent out throughout, whether it's social media, just the world. It's okay to want to compete. It's okay to have a little bit of sting in your heart when you lose, because it's going to drive you to be better in your next endeavor, whether it's sports or life. So
Jeff, one more thing though.
Yeah.
One more thing, Walter, I want to talk about real quick. And this is something that I left out. And this is another example of it. Kind of the difference, and another tremendous benefit, I think, when it comes to the little league world and I guess you would call it the travel ball world. So in that same, so we're in the season, we're playing, and I can tell he's not really himself. And I'm like, what's going on, buddy? He's like, Dad, I wish I was playing a little bit more. I wish I was given more opportunities. That conversation, which we've all had with our kids, I'm sure, at some point as a parent. And, son, I understand. I see your frustration, but you can't allow that. When you get your opportunity, make the most of it. Be prepared. That whole conversation. So a couple of weeks go by, and I can still tell that he's just frustrated, putting a lot of pressure on himself. I can see it, and we have another conversation about it, and I tell him, I said, son, let's keep things in perspective here. This is 12-year-old baseball. If 12-year-old baseball is the pinnacle or the highlight of your life, Dad didn't do a very good job of raising you, because I'm not a grandpa. I'm not watching you get married. I'm not watching you graduate from high school. I'm not watching you reach your goals athletically that you say you want to reach. Boy, I sure did do a poor job of being a dad, if this is the end all be all for you as an athlete or as a person, right? But in those frustrations and in those moments, what I liked about the Little League is that you have to abide by the rules by which you play. And like I tell our parents in our meeting, yes, your son should be playing more. He should be. And I understand your frustration, but you got to also understand that I got to abide by the rules. I can't just put little Johnny in the bat or play in center field in the third, the fifth, and the seventh inning, and then Jeffrey gets to play. It's not like that. I got to follow the rules. So it's important for them to understand the rules. And I think that Little League has those rules in place that helps them develop into that understanding in high school baseball. Whereas in travel baseball, as we all know, you can bat 13, you can bat 15, you can bat your whole roster if you want.
Right.
They don't really care. They're just there for getting the at bats. All right. So circle back. So 12-year-old baseball isn't the end all be all, son. Right. Be prepared for your moment. Be prepared for your opportunity. They're playing Hawaii and the USA Championship.
I remember, yeah.
Fifth inning, nothing game. The inning, the bottom of the fourth ends, and I tell my wife, I said, I think this is going to be Jeffrey's opportunity to pinch hit, come off the bench. He was a role player. He wasn't a starter. He was a role player on the team. And of course, oh my gosh, nothing. Fifth inning's going to lead up now. She's saying, I'm like, well, it is what it is, you know?
Right.
And lo and behold, he gets a pitch he likes and he smacks one to the fence. He hits a double. They wind up scoring 5 runs in that inning, just started a big rally. They win the USA Championship. They go on to win the World Championship the next day against Curacao with all these unbelievably really good players. And, they get an opportunity to go to the White House, and they get an opportunity to fly home on Air Force One.
Wow.
And then, the advice of Dad Yeah, 12-year-old baseball isn't that big of a deal, right, Dad? Great advice. It's not going to be the pinnacle of my life, right? What have you ever done in your 40-something years of life, right? Have you gone to the White House or Air Force One because of your state championship?
Oh man,
So
what an
I get a laugh
experience.
out of that, for those reasons. But I think it's important to understand all of those things and why an entity like Little League Baseball is important.
Well, my hope is that parents and student athletes alike find their way to the podcast or the video version of this because it's such a powerful message. The last 5 minutes of this conversation, where there's a synergy, a correlation between those lessons we're learning at 12 and how we're going to bring them into the high school experience and beyond. Be ready for your moment. Be ready for your opportunity. Don't wallow and worry in your now. Prepare for your opportunities when they arrive. And that's a mental and a physical dynamic that we lose sight of. What a great message delivered by a great coach. And Jeff, I just want to end on this, and I just tell folks to put things in perspective. John Curtis has sent multiple, many student athletes, both boys and girls, into the world of college athletics. Also, the NFL, soon, hopefully, the Major League Baseball. And so just conclude by everything begins during those high school years that you take into your dynamic as a spouse, as a parent, as a future business owner or employee. And that's really the essence of a school like Curtis High School, correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, we touched on it a few minutes ago, building champions for life. And taking those experiences as a young athlete, good or bad. And this is what I actually teach a freshman class. And I tell them all the time, I say, it really doesn't matter what you've done before now. Your clock is ticking at this moment. When you finish your high school career, when it's done, when you walk across that stage, and colleges are going to ask for your high school transcript. They don't care what you did at 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 years old. They really don't care. This is when it begins. If you were a straight A student up to this point, you've never made lower than an A. Nobody cares. This freshman transcript is when it's going to start. If you've been a CD student your entire career, nobody cares. It starts now. So that's kind of the message that I talk to my freshmen about how serious this is. When you go to get a job, they're gonna want to come in. They're gonna send an email to our guidance counselor's office, and they're gonna ask questions about you as a student or as a person. They don't care if you hit 400. They don't care if you hit 10 home runs. They don't care. Those are all maybe like little pieces to the puzzle that shows that you are a well-rounded student, but they don't care about a batting average or how many touchdowns you threw. They want somebody that's going to show up every day. Dad tells a story all the time. He's sitting at his desk and he gets a call, and it's the office, and they say somebody from the FBI is here to see you. Oh, what did I do, right? So the person comes in and he says, we're here to check the records of this person because they've applied to enter the academy, and we would like to see their records. So of course Dad pulls a file and this, that, and the other, and they go into the records, and he spends time looking at everything, and he said, okay, Mr. Curtis, we're done. And Dad says, well, before you go, for me, why are you? He says, well, we want to know if they've been tardy to school. We want to know if they cheated on a test. We want to know if they had any academic dishonesty, because if they have, we're not interested in them being a part of our agency, right? And so obviously that's a big deal. But the reality of the situation is when you're a freshman in high school, these next 4 years of your life are going to dictate what the next 40 years of your life are. And we think that athletics are a huge part of that. we like to think that we develop the whole child academically, athletically, spiritually, morally. Certainly, we're at a private school where Christianity can be talked about. It's out in the open, but we also have people in our school that aren't Christians. They may be Jewish, they may be Hindu or Buddhist, but being in a Christian school, we're able to open that up so we can develop that child, because that's what life is about: living and being a part of the world.
And I think that is the single greatest point that illustrates it's about the collective experience and not just a tiny portion with regard to athletics or even baseball specifically. I knew you would nail it. I knew you embodied everything that the message that we're trying to get out, that I'm trying to carry forward and pass forward. So I want to thank you. I want to say Happy New Year to the entire Curtis family, Coach Johnny, Coach JT, all the wives, all the kids. And I'm looking forward to your baseball season. I know you have a great squad coming back. So best of luck in 2023, and hope you beat Coach Bass and Catholic this year in the state championship.
Thank you, Walter. I really appreciate it. This was fun. I'm looking forward to where this goes, and hat tip to you for all that you do for young men, young women, and developing them into being the men and women that this society needs.
Amen. And thank you to Jeff. And hopefully, folks, if you have any questions, maybe you want to leave a message for Coach Jeff and kind of get an idea of what you might be able to bring to your program or pass on to your student athletes, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, listen to the podcast, and help spread the word. Thank you.